Uh, I'm in Bogota, Colombia. It is a very beautiful, sunny morning. I'm here for a big book fair. And so we're gonna do the live stream, and then I'm gonna go to the book fair afterwards. If you're new to Brain Tech Support Live, we get together, take our brains out of their boxes, and kind of mess around with the wiring. Maybe swap out, a transwarp conduit or two, stick it back in. But what we don't do is try to get rid of thoughts and feelings. Uh, the struggles with our brain, the struggles with our mental health, so much of that is about trying to get rid of human experiences. So that's not what we do here, because that would only create more problems. Instead, the approach we take is what I would call a mental fitness approach. So just like with physical fitness, rather than trying to get rid of experiences, rather than noticing we struggle with a capacity, like say endurance, and then just saying, oh, I have an endurance disorder. Saying, no, we as humans can have experiences and we can build skills and capacities. Abhinav, good to see you. Thanks for being a member. Because everybody, there is a membership channel. Lately on the membership channel, if you're a donut level supporter and higher, we've been exploring videos around loss. So many of the obsessions and compulsions that we'll run into around mental health are about trying to avoid the possibility or the feelings of loss. Whether we're trying to lose relationships, lose identity, try not to lose control, whatever it is we're afraid of losing, we'll do so many compulsions around, which ironically will usually create the very thing we're afraid of losing. Ariel. Oh, is the live set to 2025-5? That's what we're doing here. We're just being in the future, helping ourselves from the future navigate the past. Eunice, hello. Thanks for stopping by. As we explore today, we may talk a bit about loss. And I would say everybody watching and listening now and later, or in the future, in the year 2025-5, notice how whatever challenge we're running into, there'll often be that kind of what I'll often refer to as a superficial fear, but we may initially see as this really important theme. Like even if it was something like intrusive thoughts about harming somebody we care about, really, really difficult. Like when I struggled with mental illness, I would often see terrible, violent things happening. So then, so particularly around any kind of sharp object, but the idea of what a sharp object was very expanded to even things like pens and pencils. So I then wouldn't touch them. So even I wasn't using knives. Like when I went to get help for mental health, I was not using knives. So also I wouldn't cook anything that required any kind of cutting or anything like that. And I really saw that as well, actually not at first. At first, I saw that as just totally normal and necessary. I didn't see it as a problem at all. I was like, okay, I just won't use knives. So at first that didn't seem like a problem, but then when I started to recognize, hey, that's kind of an issue, I should get help for that. And lots of people encounter intrusive thoughts like those and then do compulsions like that. Initially, we see that as the significant thing. You'll see people all the time on mental health forums and things like that talking about like, oh, I struggle with harm intrusive thoughts, or like that's my theme or something like that. it can help to see that as just the superficial topic. What we're actually afraid of is what that would lead to. And so if we look at, okay, I'm afraid of causing harm, and then we ask, okay, well, what would be the consequences of that? What we'll see there in the consequences are things we're afraid of losing, whether that's losing people we care about, losing relationships, losing our identity is a big one, because we think, oh, like that is whatever that thought is about, that is a thing I would not do. I'm not that kind of person. And so we try to control it because we like being ourselves. We don't want to get caught up in whatever these experiences are in our heads. We don't want to be like that. And so it could help if that's what somebody's running into. It could really help to see that, hey, I'm not struggling with harm intrusive thoughts. I'm struggling with a fear of losing myself, losing my identity. And my brain actually, although it malfunctions and is a useless piece of, catastrophe blender, that's why we get together here. It is trying to help. It is just saying, oh, you don't want to lose your identity? Okay, I'll think of all of the different ways you could lose your identity. And then it's just throwing up thoughts related to that. But it's going to be more useful to look at that feared consequence and for us to then build skills around that. Thank you so much for sharing. I've been said here. I just want to say one thing. Your book was one of the best I've read. It helped me a lot. Hey, I'm really glad. I hope it continues to be a really useful resource as you navigate through the adventures of life. It is totally intended not to just be for, when we're struggling or we run into challenges, but those skills there are really useful just for everything we do in life, for all of the things we want to build and explore. So I hope it continues to be really helpful. Eunice, you said you're losing your job because it feels like a burden. And I hope whatever you decide to navigate, whatever choice you decide to make on that journey, I hope you're getting supports to do the things you want to be doing. Ariel. So you said here, if one is having unwanted sexual thoughts, what does it mean? And then you said, LOL, you're going to say thoughts don't mean anything. But what do you think are healthy sexual outlets for unmarried people? Well, like I was just mentioning with the harm thoughts, it's not that thoughts don't necessarily mean nothing. Often our brain is just trying, as awkwardly and as unfortunately as we may experience it, our brains are just trying to, protect us, are just trying to help us go after things that we care about, but maybe our brains don't know the best ways to do that, would be one way I would describe it. So rather than, just like I was talking about there with harm thoughts that we might judge as unwanted or intrusive, what we want to look at is what is the kind of the consequence or the outcome of either the thoughts, because if it's a fear, rather than getting caught up in the fear, going, oh, well, what is the thing I'm then therefore afraid of? And looking at that, because there we're going to see something we care about. So you mentioned there, you said, what do you think are healthy sexual outlets for unmarried people? So something I would be curious about there is, do you want to have a relationship? Is a relationship something you want to explore? If it is, then what currently is getting in the way of exploring a relationship? Uh, that would be the first thing I'd be curious about that. Ice Barrage, thank you for mentioning my vertical stripy shirt. I picked up this shirt recently when I was in Mexico. And Ice Barrage, thank you for being a member and stopping by today. I feel like the fun thing on this episode is the because I'm in a hotel this morning, the kind of like very hotel piece of art back here. Hotels. Actually, I've noticed a trend in hotels that more and more hotels will have art very specifically related to the place where they are, which I think is great. This hotel is not doing that. It's still doing the generic kind of abstract art. It's where hotels keep abstract, very abstract artists in business. Abhinav. So he said, so these thoughts of the brain showing us scenarios it doesn't want, or is this the brain just throwing these because we have trained it to? Yes, absolutely, it can be both. I find it useful to see there's kind of like two systems in the brain. There'll absolutely be this fear-based system, like we've got to prevent this stuff, whatever this stuff is, and so it's going to churn up stuff to try to get us to prevent that. So there's that fear-fueled system, and then there's also the compulsion system, where the brain's going to throw up stuff. This is where it's just like the dog that's going to bring us the dead animal just because we engage with the dog every time it brings in a dead animal. So the more we engage with it, the more it's going to dig up dead animals and bring them in because it likes the attention. And so, yeah, not seeing that as an either or, you're often going to be, it really helped me to see I was unwinding both. There was just like habits that I'd just done. So the brain was just going to do that because that's what it thought we did. And then there were these things that I care about that it's going to try to throw up the opposite so that we protect the thing we care about. Samuel, he said, this is my first time catching the live on time while I fly to get some boots. Samuel, thanks for joining us. I hope you have a great flight to get some boots. Thanks too for being a member. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you stopping by today as you're going on your adventure. Eunice. Yeah, you say, I take sertraline, 50 milligrams. It doesn't help me coping with a stressful job. Yeah, because coping with a stressful job is going to be about actions we do. If we took something and then we didn't feel bad about the stressful job, that wouldn't change the fact that the job is stressful. It's important, regardless of whether we're doing something that's creating difficulty in our lives or we're experiencing things outside of us, around us that are creating difficulty in our lives, we have to make changes. There absolutely may be supports we take to help us navigate the experience of making those changes. But yeah, if something, like you could think of it like a tiger attacking us. There's a tiger gnawing on my leg, and I take something to not try to not feel the pain of the tiger chewing on my leg. The tiger chewing on my leg remains a problem. Like me feeling bad about it is actually really useful because then I will resolve the issue of the tiger eating my leg. But if I was like, I took something and now I don't feel bad about this stressful event, the tiger then is probably going to eat all of me. Eunice, yeah, you also, is major depression treatable? I and my friend are struggling with it, and it's always ups and downs, and we can't cope with life. Yeah, Eunice, it's really useful to connect with a skilled professional that you can navigate that with. Depression is totally treatable. We have years and decades of research on exploring and treating depression. Depression was the first thing that I was diagnosed with. Yeah, it is a thing we can make changes around. But there, if you're finding that just working on your own isn't taking you to that place you want to go, then yeah, it's really useful to connect with a skilled professional that can assist on the adventure. George, let's see. Yeah, George, you're up next. You said, I just want your views on this. I'm constantly jealous of my friend who became more popular, rich, and good in the thing I was most passionate about. I just couldn't become good at the thing I was most passionate about. I'm 26, I have a nice paying job, but still jealous of that friend. Everything feels meaningless to me. There's a couple things that I'd be curious about. Uh, with the thing you wanted to be good at, George, what did you or do you feel is going to be the outcome of that? Like, why get good at that? What do you feel you were gonna get if you did that? And so I'd be curious about what that is, like what that outcome would have been. And then there are a couple things. Like, is that outcome useful to you? Uh, are there other ways, and maybe healthier ways, to reach the same outcome? Another thing I find really important when it comes to taking care of our mental health is to switch the focus from getting to giving. Usually, probably always, but let's say usually this morning, usually, if we are trying to get something, whatever it is, we're usually going to create the opposite, and we're constantly going to feel lacking. And then we end up in this cycle of just chasing and chasing and chasing it. It's the same if it's certainty, or we're trying to get certainty that we're a good person, or we're safe, or we're right, or whatever. But it's the same with any other thing we would chase after in life. Like, even if it's something like success, for instance, we're just constantly chasing success. So just like the brain would with certainty, it's going to constantly move that further and further away. And we're always going to feel like we're lacking something. And then we're going to be really upset if we see other people with this thing we think we want to get. But we can see what that leads to. You can see now what that leads to. You just end up feeling bad. And so what if there are other ways to approach things in life? And I find a huge one that I find really helpful across the board, this would be for everybody, is making that switch from trying to get stuff to instead giving. And looking just at today, what do we want to give? And then celebrate that. And the advantage of that is because whatever we give is 100% in our control. So it's very doable to be successful with it. Abhinav, you said any inputs on how to change the fear once we've found it, especially if it relates to something uncertain, like themes of magical thinking, praying, religion. Yeah, we don't change it. See there, yeah, like if you're uncertain, like magical thinking is a great example where we believe I've got to do X and that's going to control Y thing. We notice that urge to control and do some ritual to magically control the future, or you mentioned religion there, to magically control some higher being or the future of our existence or whatever it may be. And we're going to sit in that. And then we notice that we care about that fear. Like, if I care, I'm going to be punished for eternity. I notice that I care about that. And so if I care about that, what am I going to do? What do I want to do to give today? And rather than trying to control a higher being or control the future, I'm going to practice giving in my life and doing the things I want to do today, because I do not control what's going to happen in the future. But what I do control is how I spend my time and energy today. So I definitely don't want to end up spending a lot of time and energy on compulsions. So George explaining about the outcomes here. So George says, one outcome, the same thing my friend has got right now. Popular, good at something I like. Two, the outcome would have made me feel better about myself. Yep, so there's a couple things here. So yeah, actually the outcome of popular, I always try to use, so see, that's not the outcome. It's what do you believe you would get if you were popular? So what comes from getting popularity? Because there's often a bunch of things there. Like we might see safety, we might have people, we want attention from people, whatever it might be. It could be financial resources, etc. Getting good at something you like. If it's something you like, and I think you mentioned you were 26 years old, you have a lot of time to get good at it. If you want to get good at it, then it's going to help to look at the actions of getting good at it and celebrate those instead of some outcome. Because we do this to ourselves. We say, I want to get good at this thing, and then I'm not good at it. Therefore, that sucks, and we feel bad about ourselves. But immediately that then takes us away from actually engaging in the practices that would help us get good at it. So it really helps to celebrate the actions rather than the outcome. This was, I'm forgetting which director was talking about. There was a Japanese director, film director, who was talking about this metaphor, and I'm forgetting his name right now. And basically what he was sharing was that he sees a lot of young filmmakers, come into the industry, and they look to somebody like him who's very skilled, and they make a film, and then they're like, oh, it wasn't good, and then they quit or they feel bad about themselves. And he describes it as that being like looking at a mountain off in the distance, and it's a 5-day hike to the top of the mountain, and you hike one day, and then you go, oh, I'm not at the top of the mountain, I'm not good, and then quit. And he explains that what we need to do is celebrate the steps and actually really enjoy, if we use that metaphor of hiking in the wilderness, really enjoy that my goal right now is just to go to that tree over there. And when I go to that tree, I'm really going to enjoy the tree rather than looking at the far off mountain and going like, oh, I'm not there, I'm bad, this tree sucks, because it's not the mountain. If we take that approach of only looking at some far off goal and then hating on where we're at, we do not reach the goal. And even if we did, we would hate the journey there. But if we set these much closer goals, we're like, I just want to walk to that tree over there, and I'm super interested in that tree. And then we get to that tree and we're like, wow, over there's another tree. I really want to go and see that tree. And we enjoy going to those goals and enjoy the practice of walking there. Then we get to the mountain and we're much happier, and we do it faster, and we end up being really skilled at it. So that's what I would look at there. What if this is something you enjoy and like? What if you're not having to do it to get something? So again, like what's the point of getting that popularity? What if you didn't have to get that, but it was just about practicing something you enjoy? If we just practice something we enjoy, we tend to get very skilled at it. Now, the second thing, Georgie also mentioned, the outcome would have made me feel better about myself. Where does that idea come from right now that you need to get a thing to feel good about you? There's a bunch of ways to explore this and reasons why we'd explore this. It comes up often, this idea that I am not enough just being, and I need to get something, and then that thing is going to make me feel better. So we externalize our happiness, we make it dependent on getting something, and then of course the brain is going to keep pushing that thing off and we'll keep chasing it and not getting it. It can be much more useful to celebrate being ourselves even if we did nothing. So there's a couple thought exercises. This comes up a lot. So there's a couple thought exercises I share with people around this. One of them you can find on my channel. If you go to my YouTube channel, there's a video called the Happiness in Isolation exercise. And it is a thought exercise to imagine how would you be happy if you were locked up in solitary confinement and had no control over anything and could accomplish nothing for the rest of your life. And you might initially say, well, no, I wouldn't be happy. And that is not the exercise. No, the exercise is, how are you going to be happy? If we can't chase after and get these things, so we remove that possibility, you can't get popular. There's no other people in solitary confinement. There's no way of being popular. Then what is happiness going to be? Because we would recognize that being happy is going to be useful to us. So how are you going to do that? What do you need to drop? What do you need to let go of trying to get? What do you instead want to give to yourself? So another exercise you can explore with this, if we said, look, actually the world is going to be swallowed by a space whale a week from now. So any of the things maybe we were trying to get, any of those things, special things we were trying to accomplish, whatever reward, whatever success, it's not going to happen. How are you going to be happy in that next week? What do you want to give? What do you want to give to others? How do you want to spend your time and energy? You probably don't want to spend your time and energy kind of like hating on something your friend has. Yeah, so it is very, very doable to feel good about ourselves without doing anything. In fact, I'd say it's a tremendous support. So yeah, what would you need to drop to go about doing that? Adelaide said, I shared something about the struggles I had earlier on Instagram today and wanted to say that it is possible to get better in mental health. Now I feel ashamed and bad. Like, did I only want attention? If you shared something, you shared something. What would you rather spend time and energy on now? Dylan, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the donation. I really appreciate, just consistent support and, attending the live streams. I think I just saw you said you're even at work today. Thank you. And I see you shared on your donation. You said, if anyone hasn't tried out the Discord meditation group, I highly recommend it. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Dylan. I'm so impressed and amazed with the meditation groups on the Mental Fitness Discord server. We have such a great group of people who volunteer to lead the sessions. But then even that we have so many throughout the week, I don't even know, do we have 4 sits? It's amazing. And of course, thank you to the members of the Mental Fitness Discord server who lead those and everybody who attends those, because it's quite unique to have that many sits. And actually, we have a great number of people who consistently attend and share their meditation practice. And that's an amazing and unique support, because I'll often attend meditation groups as I'm moving around the world. And it's unusual to see that level of frequency and commitment and practice outside of a Zen temple. So I'm really enjoy sitting with the groups and sharing, and I'm so happy that we have that on the Mental Fitness Discord server. If anybody would like to join the Mental Fitness Discord server, send me a message either through my website, markfreeman.ca, or on Instagram at Mark W. Freeman, and just share about what you'd like to give and share with the Mental Fitness Discord server. It's an amazing, so even beyond the meditation groups as well, an amazing group of people sharing about the skills they're building, the mental fitness, mental health, and other adventures in life skills that they want to grow. And so I think it's really important that we have a place that is focused on mental health, but is about what we want to grow and build, that isn't defined by some kind of acronym around a mental illness label. It's not a problem first approach. It's about what we care about and what we want to grow. So that kind of growth and care first approach. So yeah, if you find it useful to join a group that's focused on the skills you want to build, yeah, reach out and I can connect you with an invite link. And now, Dylan, I see you're sharing about work. You said, I'm at work today, so I'm just popping in quickly with a pre-written question. Oh, thanks for writing it out in advance. I'll catch the recording later. I hope everyone has an easy and peaceful day. Oh, thanks for sharing that with everybody, Dylan. And thank you for being a member too. So you said here, I tend to hold my anxiety in my body by tensing certain muscles. This has been an automatic way of operating for years, and I think it may be related to some chronic pain I have. Since this way of tensing muscles is so automatic, do you have any suggestions for cutting out this behavior? Sometimes lately, when I notice it, I try to consciously untense my muscles, but it's not easy. I'd also rather not do it in the first place. Yeah, it's really common. I think it's one of the it's great you notice it. It's one of the things we'll do that sometimes people won't even notice until they've been cutting out a lot of compulsions around intrusive thoughts and things like that. And then after all that, they may just start to notice these automatic reactions like tensing our muscles, or it might be all sorts of other things we do in the body as a reaction to a particular thought or feeling. So it's really normal. It's also really common that people will find, even as they've cut out all sorts of reactions to intrusive thoughts, they will even say, hey, I'm not even anxious anymore, but my body still keeps reacting. So a thought will come up or a situation, I won't have any anxious feelings, I won't even be thinking about the intrusive thoughts, but in this same situation, my body still, tenses up, my heart starts racing, I sweat, just sweat excessively. All sorts of things like that can happen. And so what part of it is giving it some time. I'll often say that the body or the nervous system takes time to catch up. So there is that, you're starting to notice the muscle tensing. It can be kind to give it a lot of space, because we'll tend to do these things as reflexes. So it's like we've been getting good at a sport for a really long time. So automatically we'll tense up. The ball's coming at our face or something, and we'll just tense up and get ready to attack it. And now we're going to learn not to do that. So that will take time. And then one of the things, or an approach that could be interesting to explore, are any kinds of meditative, mindful practices that are body related. So some people explore things like, they might explore something like breath work, somatic techniques, all sorts of deep relaxation, body scan type techniques, to gradually explore getting ahead of it, like you mentioned there. So for example, if somebody is doing a deep relaxation or body scan technique, exploring how to kind of very gently, relax the body. Inevitably, at some point, there's going to be some kind of thought that pops up, or you may even bring it up intentionally, like combining some deep relaxation meditation with some healing the inner child. And then just starting to practice easing into that kind of difficult topic with kindness and gentleness. It is going to be like going into like a sport. So it's going to be like going into volleyball, having somebody, it's going to feel like the brain smashing the ball towards your face, and then you not putting up your hands as a reaction. And you see, like that is just a very normal human thing. It's very normal. The muscle tensing is happening. Learning how to have that mental or emotional attack happening, like somebody smashing the ball at you, and just letting it happen takes a lot of practice and a lot of gentleness. But I would say actually the experience of exploring that can be really enjoyable. We can get ahead of this stuff, but it's okay for it to take time. It is exactly like unlearning a sport that we've been world champions at. So yeah, enjoy that. And that, I mean, that can be something even we discuss, in the meditation channel on the mental fitness Discord server, or yeah, or wherever it may be. I can share some links to. There is some great deep relaxation meditations that could be fun to try out, because really, this is for everybody exploring meditation. When we're exploring meditation, it's not some magic ritual to go and fix something. We're essentially exploring skills there. And it's really useful to explore even skills like, say, deep relaxation, and how we can bring that skill of approaching an experience with kindness and ease into our everyday lives. We think of meditation simply as the practice exercise. And then living our lives and interacting with experiences, that's the game. So yeah, Dylan, enjoy exploring that and easing through it. Nikki, yeah, have fun on the solitary confinement exercise. Oh, Connor, thanks so much for stopping by and the kind words. Yeah, Connor, it looks like you said asked if you can ask. Yeah, absolutely, you can ask a question. Super Taker. So, do you have any content for first-time managers? I was promoted to inspections manager this past week, and while I'm cool in one area, I am terrified in others mentally. Yeah, actually, any of this content we explore, so many of the exercises that are in my book, so that are in You Are Not a Rock or the Mind Workout, they originate in practices to help lead teams. This values-based approach I first learned in the business world. And then I found that it was such a key component of acceptance and commitment therapy. And so that's why that made a lot of sense and why I found it really useful. This practice of setting values and sharing them with a team is so useful, because also we can't get into like managing everybody. If you're trying to manage and have certainty and control over everybody, it becomes just like trying to manage and control our thoughts. And so what we do, especially this is so valuable with a team, is to set shared values and really explore with the team what it means to align our actions with those values. And then the values help guide the team. The values also ensure that other members of the team can take action without needing to come to us as a manager. Because all we're all going to do is put our time and energy towards those values. So yeah, you can really leverage these skills to support a team. Teams, just like us, struggle with uncertainty. And so if we're struggling with uncertainty, your team members are going to have feelings they dislike, and they're going to fall back on things they've done before. They're going to fall back on compulsions. And so what we're doing with values is giving the team something to move towards instead of falling back on the old way of doing things, which might not have worked that well. Yeah. So have fun exploring, values with your team. Abhinav said, so I act on the underlying belief that I cannot control the future or leave it at a maybe. I fear prayers that bring harm to my family may or may not come true. Focusing on the present feels wrong. But yeah, you can see that you care about your family. So it's going to be way more useful to put time and energy to caring for your family in practice rather than trying to chase that certainty from the magical thinking. But it's understandable, right? We want to have certainty about that. We can't really have certainty about what's going to happen to our family. But what we can know is that we can give our time and energy to actions that do support our family right now. But it's so natural we're chasing that kind of certainty off in the future. Andy, thank you for being a member. He said, I just wanted to thank you for one of the bits in your book where it mentions someone only started to recover when they realized they may never know the answer to the question. Realizing I may never get an answer with all the thinking and everything has helped me drop that conversation and return to my values. Yeah, it's so useful. This is something everybody can do. Whatever it is we're trying to chase, it can really help to just notice, hey, I'm never going to get that answer. I'm never going to get that certainty. I cannot get that certainty. And I do not want to get it. In many ways, when we're caught up in the compulsions and we don't even think about it, we just take it as a given. Like, I am going to get that certainty. I'm going to get that thing I want to get, even if it's like I'm going to get popularity, I'm going to get success, whatever it is. But then we just end up making ourselves miserable and kind of throwing away the things we really care about in life to chase after this thing we want to get. And so what if we just say, I'm not going to get it. I can't get it. I don't need to get it. There are things I'd much, much rather do. Nick Empower, thanks for signing up for the membership to Donut. Donut is the membership level where you can access the videos, the members-only videos. So have fun going through those. Welcome to the membership. Thank you for joining. This past week, we've been exploring loss. And so I find the great thing about having the videos in the member section is that everybody there is just interested in working on skills, cutting out compulsions. So it's possible in those kinds of videos, I can get into really specific topics. But if I put them on YouTube, on the public side of things, or on Instagram, they wouldn't really have a lot of relevance to the kind of what everybody or kind of the general public is searching for. So that is the advantage of the member channel. We really get to dive in for people who are just really interested in these topics and are actually working on them. Brett said, how do you deal with guilt from the past real event stuff if I got cut off? I don't think it appears anywhere else. So, Brett, I would find it useful to see that whatever we're trying to control in the past is pointing at things we care about, or whatever about the past that we're trying to fix or clean away or whatever. It can be really useful, like we were talking about before, to look at the feared consequence, to look at the thing we care about, say, look, I really care about this stuff. So if I'm bothered about something in the past, that helps me see that, hey, in the present, here is what I want to give, or here is what I want to do, here is what I want to build. And so as much as the brain is annoying for bringing up stuff in the past, we want to thank it. Like, brain, I get it. In your own weird way, you're pointing out what I care about in the present. But then our work, the exercise we need to do, is to notice that, thank the brain, and shift the focus to the present where we actually exist, I guarantee you are not a time traveling janitor. At least most people who join our live streams are not time traveling janitors. So we're not going to do anything in the past. But what we can do is say, look, yeah, like I care about, for instance, I care about relationships, or I care about treating people with kindness and with respect. I want to give to people. And I see in the past, maybe I didn't do that and I don't like that. So what am I going to do in the present to practice giving what I want to give? And we make it about creating and growing now, right here. EL said, my mental fitness approach completely changed when I stopped trying to get the right reaction to things I didn't like and instead changed my attitude to be okay and even enjoy the moment wherever. Yeah, EL, thanks for sharing that. It is so effective to have the experience we're having. Like you said, if we're constantly trying to get the right reaction, then we're just always going to judge our reaction as wrong. But yeah, we can just be curious about it and have that experience we're having. Adam, is there any way that we can make thoughts stop hurting and causing pain and anger so much? Like I just get reminded of painful memories and real event experiences. Is any way to avoid pain in them? So it could help to look at what creates the pain. I found it really useful to recognize like a thought can't hurt us. A thought doesn't do anything to me. And even like you mentioned anger there. Well, a thought can't make us angry. But we can hate on the thought, we can judge the thought, we can be like, that shouldn't be there. And then we get angry. So I would look at what's going on there between you and the thoughts. What if you consider maybe you're doing some things to the thoughts? What if it was okay for them to be there? Just like so many other experiences we have. Like I just heard a siren go by. So I could be like, oh, why is that siren interrupting our live stream? Why is it distracting me? Why is it messing up a calm and quiet morning? But that's all me. That would have nothing to do with the siren. That'd be no different than a bird chirping outside, an airplane flying by, or something else we experience. So thoughts are just things we experience. But Adam, I see, as you said down below, yeah, is it a reflex? Yeah, it probably has become a reflex. You can see it as we're teaching ourselves things. So if we constantly, like even if every time you heard a bird, you shouted at it and got really angry, yeah, you would start to train yourself to have a physical reaction every time you heard a bird. So yeah, part of it's going to be exploring uh, what do you want to teach yourself about having experiences when we recognize that, hey, all of these thoughts and feelings, they are just experiences we're having. I'm just gonna take a scroll on down the chat, maybe clean it up a bit. Oh, and Abhinav, thank you so much for the donation. It said your books, videos, and inputs have truly been life-changing. It's almost been a year today since I connected with your channel, and it has been very instrumental in my recovery. Thank you. Oh, Abhinav, thank you so much. I'm glad. I'm really happy these tools, you've been able to find them, but then also really turn them into action in your life. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for joining us today and sharing about that. I hope these skills continue to be really useful as you're heading on adventures in life. Okay. I'm gonna pop back up to a question. I think I saw it. It was from Trex. Yeah. Trex said here, is wanting to be present and focused in the moment a rigid belief? How to change it? Because I feel like that belief causes more distraction. Yeah, Trex, it's really useful to see. and you notice how it creates more distraction. This, we could tie back to that idea of trying to get, right? If we're trying to get something, even if we're trying to get focused, get mindfulness, get present, we're usually going to create the opposite. When we're trying to get being present, it implies that it's this extra thing we need to tack on to life. But I can guarantee you, so now I don't know if everybody, everybody is not a time traveling janitor. We'll say probably 90% of the people joining the live stream today, not time traveling janitors. However, I can guarantee that everybody joining the live stream today, everybody following up on the live stream later, is present. There is no way we cannot be present. Simply the reality of physics, the physics system in which we live. What happens though is that if we then go, I need to get present, we tend to start doing lots of compulsions. We have a very rigid approach to our experiences. We're trying to get certainty. We're trying to get control. And that actually takes us away from the present because we were already present. It can help to see mindfulness and presence as more of an undoing, that they are the reality and quality of experience that already exists if we stop getting in our way trying to get things. A metaphor I find really useful is to see the present moment or mindfulness as a pond. And this is both an internal and external pond. Through this pond, we see reality reflected. We see our internal experience reflected. We run into challenges when we start trying to grab onto those experiences. So it's like we see the present moment reflected in this pond, and then we go, I want to get present. And then we stick our hands in the water to try to grab the reflection. And what happens when we stick our hands in the water to grab a reflection? We disturb the reflection. And then we start to lose it, and then we're seeing just little flickers and fractalized reflections of the present moment in the waves and the ripples and the splashes that we're creating. So then we start trying to grab those, and now our hands are all over the place and we're running around and we're stirring up mud in the pond, trying to grab the present moment, which was there before we started trying to get it. So it can be useful to see that the present is with us. We can't not be present. And what if we just get out of our way and enjoy it? So yeah, Trix, I think you're noticing with a lot of awareness something that's really useful. So yeah, enjoy continuing to consider that awareness. So yeah, if I don't need to have this really rigid belief about the present, I don't need to get it, then what's that experience going to be like of not disturbing the pond? Nikita, you asked, what would your advice be to straighten my back? I really spend a huge amount of time sitting. It sounds like you've already identified something you can do. What if you didn't spend as much time sitting? United, you asked, was there any game changer in your OCD recovery that changed everything and made you recover? No, like that, it can help. Maybe, and so maybe the super extreme number one change everything game changer is to recognize that's not a thing. And instead of trying to get that, like that's in many ways what we're trying to do with compulsions always. We're trying to get this magic solution to get rid of a thing we dislike, is to recognize there's nothing to fix. And right now we can just give our time and energy to things we care about. Liz, thank you for being a member as well. Thanks for joining us today. Said, is there any difference in addressing mental versus physical compulsions without suppressing thoughts? Some of my mental compulsions feel automatic, like checking for how I can escape a situation. Yeah, something that really helped me was seeing the brain as this kind of, sometimes I would see it as a younger self that's with me. Sometimes I would see it as a monster, but a fun monster. And sometimes I would see it as a dog that's with me. And maybe the puppy is the kind of apt example here. We are teaching our puppy, our brain puppy, how to do new things. But if we're out taking the brain puppy for a walk, expect it to pull on the leash. Expect it to want to run after things. Like it sees a squirrel, and just every time it sees a squirrel, it wants to charge after it. It we can laugh at that. So I find kindness can be really useful. And seeing we're not suppressing squirrels if we want the brain puppy to walk with us. We recognize that, hey, it's going to be useful if I teach the brain puppy not to just charge after a squirrel, charge after a thought, because it's going to do that in some situations where it's not going to be helpful to it. It might charge after a squirrel and run in front of a car sometimes because it's not paying attention to what's useful. So I want to show it how to pay attention to what's useful. But I'm not gonna get there by like hating on it. I want to build around those things I care about. So when we're looking at mental health stuff, I find it so important to look at what we want to grow and build. So rather than even, so we even set aside, so we say, look, you don't even have to address mental or physical compulsions. What do you want to give time and energy into in life? What are the actions that are going to help you do that? And what are the supports that are going to help you do that? Just like if we were taking a puppy out for a walk and we know it likes squirrels. So when we are walking past the tree where the squirrels are, how are we going to keep the puppy's attention on the things that are useful to it? Proactively. It's built around what we care about, to help it gradually learn that, hey, when there is a squirrel, maybe chasing after it isn't the best option. There might actually be a better option. But when it chases after that squirrel, we're gonna be kind to it. We're gonna kind of find it cute, and then gently bring it back to where we want to go. So yeah, enjoy taking your brain puppy for a walk. Yeah, it can learn. It can learn new tricks, but also it'll still always be a brain puppy. And we can love it anyway. Kirara said, I'm on healing process now and I can sleep without Xanax. Hey, thanks for sharing that. Keshav, you said, how can I recover when I'm losing faith that I cannot do it? So it's not linked to faith, which is a great thing. Whether we could, you know, totally be wanting to do compulsions, but if we're changing our actions are still going to be changing. So rather than, and even we can remove something like the concept of recovery even, and say, look, so there's not recovery. We don't have to go and get some recovery. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to give your time and energy to today? And that's a thing we can do. There's no special place for recovery. All I have every day and every moment is just a choice about what I give my time and energy to. That's all any of us have, and that's all we'll ever have. Sure, we may get more and more skilled at that, just like playing a sport, just like training a brain puppy or whatever it may be. But we all only ever have the same kind of option or question. How do I want to spend my time and energy today or right now? Dane said, I question everything. Everything is in capitals, all capitals. And everything is overwhelming and confusing. I don't know how to think, how to feel, how to act around people. Advice. So I'd be curious, what if you removed those? Like you, because there are no rules about what to think or what to feel. Like definitely, if you start to, like you saw the question earlier, maybe or heard it about like a rigid belief about being present. So often we're creating these rules, like I should think a particular way, I should feel a particular way, I should act a particular way. Those rules do not exist. But if you try to set those rules, just like if we say, I must be present, we're just automatically going to judge ourselves as wrong. So, yeah, then what if you can have any thought, you can have any feeling, you don't have to judge how you act. Yeah, what do you want to do? What do you want to grow in life? And then what are the actions that help you do that? I am going to take a scroll here. Jack, I see your question about the rumination focused ERP, but do you have a more specific? I don't have. I mean, it's really useful to cut out rumination. I mean, I would say that's always been part of ERP, but I don't. And I mean, that's always been part of ACT. Do you have something more specific you want to ask about that? Natalie, how can we change beliefs? By changing our actions. It really helped me to recognize my brain doesn't speak any language I speak. It's just watching actions. So again, that's why it helps to think of it as a puppy. If I want it to change its reaction, I'm going to have to show it through actions. What's a more useful thing to do? Michael, so I'm trying to drop compulsions around the way I socialize, people pleasing, etc. But it feels really hard. Learning to be myself around others feels like learning to walk again. Yeah, I think that's a really accurate way to describe it. Oh, and then it says see next message. Oh, then you said I was out with friends last night and came home and cried because I felt like I was losing the friendships, as if I'm in a difficult interim phase where I don't know what to say or how to be around them. Any tips for how to navigate this tricky interim phase? Yeah, Michael, what if it's not an interim phase? What if there's not, again, just like we were talking about with kind of like special rules and all these different rules and things like that that we'll force on ourselves. And that's where we'll get into the people pleasing, trying to control things. What if we notice, yeah, that there is something that we care about there? Like we care about relationships, we care about other people. And then it's so natural that our brains, anytime we care about something, our brains just go, I've gotta control this, I've gotta have certainty, I've gotta fix this. So again, we can give our brains a hug, we can give our younger selves a hug. Of course, that's something we want to control. But then we start to recognize, okay, getting caught up in trying to control that, trying to get certainty about that, even like trying to put different labels on it, yeah, it just creates more stress and struggle for that. And so the question I'd be curious about, if we just said, look, you care about people, you care about relationships. So what is something you want to give to other people? What are simple actions you actually control that practice nurturing relationships, or practice, even if we don't even call it a relationship, we just say practice spending time with other people? And what if it was just about some simple things like that right now? That's about, hey, you get to spend time with other people and you get to give some things to other people. Then the brain's gonna wanna control other stuff. And we recognize, yeah, you know what? I don't control that other stuff. And that may feel scary. I don't know if you caught it at the start. I mentioned that on the member channel recently on YouTube, we've been exploring loss. Yeah, so often we're trying to control relationships because we do not want to lose them. But then we put all this pressure on ourselves and we find it very difficult. What if we just give ourselves compassion for that? Yeah, I really care about relationships and I don't want to lose them. And I notice my brain then pushing me to try to control that. But actually, brain, yeah, we don't control that. Maybe we will lose some people we care about. We will lose some relationships. I do not control that. But I can practice giving to people right now. I can practice spending time with people and enjoying that. Yeah. He said, I remind myself sometimes everything is okay as it is right now. This isn't a way to reassure myself. It's more of a pointer to myself to say, hey, whatever I'm experiencing right now, that's okay. Yeah, I think it's great you mentioned how it's not reassurance to recognize reality. It's not reassurance to recognize that we can have this experience. And I think it's really skillful, I would say, for everybody. This goes back to what we were talking about with the happiness and isolation exercise. Because yet we may have an experience that we said, this is a bad experience. I do not like this experience. But then it's so useful to look at what are we doing in there? What's the hating and judging and controlling that we're doing around that experience? And so if we just start from a kind of recognition that, hey, whatever you're experiencing, it's going to be useful to have that experience. Therefore, what does that mean we need to drop that we're doing around experiences that make them difficult? Dane, yeah, he said, I think it's a fear I've lost my mind, maybe then. Yeah, actually, one of the most recent videos, or I think it is the most recent, like long video on my YouTube channel, is about the fear of losing your mind. So it could be useful to check that out. Trex, yeah, he said, anxiety always gets me with the phrase, what if it actually happens? It really helped me to tell my brain that it had already happened. We're so focused on, I've got to prevent this thing, I've got to control this thing, I've got to avoid this thing. But what if we just said, yeah, actually, it's already happened. It's done. It's happened. So now that it's happened, how do I want to spend my time and energy in life? Danny, yeah, you said, is mindful meditation enough to tackle pure OCD, or is ERP necessary as part of any treatment? I'd be curious about what you think those mean and what you'd be doing in there. If we're meditating, yeah, we're not going to be ruminating, we're not going to be doing mental compulsions in our head. But again, that's about a skill we do. So it's still going to be up to you when you're not sitting for meditation to continue practicing that skill. Like you could look at meditation as an opportunity to practice not doing stuff in our heads. We're not going to be doing the checking and coping and controlling in our heads. But it's still a skill we do. And then in ERP as well, when we're cutting out mental compulsions, if we're creating a particular situation where we might have done the mental compulsions in the past, it's still going to be about us cutting out the skill. So I wouldn't see those as separate. If you look at meditation is going to be one of the opportunities where you can practice cutting out the mental compulsions. If you're setting up specific ERP exercises, you're going to be applying the exact same skills to cut out the mental compulsions. So either way, it's not that those things are some kind of magic ritual that does something to pure O. They are simply the opportunities for you to practice cutting out those compulsions. Ignacio, thank you so much for the donation and being a member and the cute character. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining today. I'm just gonna take a wander down through the chat here quickly. Oh, right. I'm gonna pop back up here. Akari said, as I stepped out of my comfort zone by going on a study abroad, I suddenly faced the fear of loneliness, which I had a tendency, which had a tendency to pull me back to a relapse, fear of relapse. However, I've been mindful, practicing meditation and letting them pass. Yeah, when we run into, like, it's great you caught that. When we run into loneliness or if there's a big change happening, it's so useful to recognize that we might be out of our regular support activities because, yeah, we're really nourished by social interactions and community. And sometimes we think, oh, when I'm traveling, I'm just going to go do this thing. And because we've taken a lot of those supports for granted, we think we're just going to go do the trip without them. But it's really useful to recognize that benefit of social interaction and community. So even when I'm traveling, so I travel all the time. And so I'm usually in a place for a couple of months at a time. One of the first things I'll do, and even as part of planning where I go, is I'll pick what I call an anchor. And the anchor is particularly a place where there'll be social interaction and I can consistently go to. So it might be if I'm going to take Spanish classes, it might be that Spanish school. If I'm looking for gyms, I might sign up to a CrossFit gym that's going to be more social. We're very nourished by our social interactions. And it's great to notice that. And so we can approach ourselves kind of like a plant in a garden. And like, say, this plant's really going to enjoy having a lot of social interaction. So how do we ensure that it's going to get the social interaction and the community that helps it thrive? Fills off. You said how to deal with the fear of your intentions. Feeling is one thing, but when your intention is the same, kind of harm type OCD, despite the feeling it's scary. I know it's not OCD. I could be, no, that very much, this question is OCD. Oh no, when you say I know it's, yeah, no, this checking on reassurance on intentions, or it sounds like you're testing feelings, very classic OCD compulsion. Yeah, and that just like judging, that's all. Yeah, that's very common. So yeah, it'll be useful to instead look at the actions you want to do and consider, hey, this time you're spending checking and judging intentions and stuff like that, it's not going to be useful. Jack, yeah. So Jack, you explained more about the rumination focused DRP. Yeah, look, I'm familiar with it. I've worked with a lot of people who have attended their practice. I get a lot of questions on it. I think the thing that I would point out that's just really important for people to notice, if you're, because there's a lot of, and you can see people sharing about this online. I'll see a lot of people doing compulsions around this idea there of you can't. I'm not even going to say what they ought to put forward. Actually, I'll put it this way. You know what we've been talking about? Rigid rules today. Like even like I must be present creates a lot of struggle for people. And so any kind of, I would caution people to watch out for getting caught up in, oh, something online said I must never do this or else I'll never recover, because there's so many people with fears about recovery and fears about emotions and fears about doing the wrong thing in our head, just like we were talking about there with the intention. So someone's like, oh, I fear I'm doing this thing in my head. It just so feeds into the OCD cycle. And it's a completely natural and normal human emotion to have anxiety. Absolutely, we don't need to be doing rumination. But if people get into focusing on rumination anxiety as this contamination they need to clean away, that can easily just turn into more and more compulsions. And so that kind of rigidity, I see people struggling with a lot and doing a lot of compulsions around. So that's what I'd watch out for. It's really useful to cut out rumination. Watch out for trying to get stuck on some kind of rigid approach, and then being afraid of, uh, an emotion, and then going, oh no, I had anxiety, I'm doing something wrong, I'll never recover, etc. That can be, yeah, just fuel more of the compulsions. So that's what I'd watch out for. Melissa, indeed, paranoia, the fear of being watched, often goes along with the compulsions. Sobek said, I just want to say that I was doing the work on my mental health, but there was no result until I realized that I was spending 9 hours per day on scrolling, and I thought that was normal. Until I cut scrolling, I started to see results. Yeah, it's so useful to see. I think I was just sharing about this with somebody recently because it's become so common for people to see our phones, and particular apps on our phones. So particularly even chatbots now, like ChatGPT. It's become so common that people see them as just a part of life. So they don't consider it a compulsion. Something I've noticed happening a lot on mental health forums is people, they'll put the pure O flair on, and they'll, maybe make a post like, I struggle with severe pure O. I spend hours every day asking ChatGPT for reassurance. Or yeah, they won't recognize, like, oh, I'm spending all of this time online posting the same questions over and over again, or I'm researching something just to get reassurance, or and not even related to mental health, or I'm constantly checking my social media for likes or whatever, and their fears are also about social anxieties. We've started to see it as such a part of ourselves that we don't recognize how we use technology is a physical external compulsion. If you're asking ChatGPT questions again and again and again and again, unless you have some kind of special chip inserted in your brain, there is no scenario in which that is pure OCD. Because pure OCD would only be mental compulsions. But I think, yeah, to what you shared there, so like, I think it's really important to recognize, because people no longer see how they use their phones or how they use technology as something external. They absorb that as an extension of their mental experience. And maybe that's not going to be too helpful for us. Yeah, so like, yeah, as you were saying there, you said, yeah, exactly. I thought I only had mental compulsions, but I realized if only I had mental compulsions, I wouldn't suffer that much. Yeah, it's it's really common that if somebody is using the term puro now, I just recognize that as meaning they have some intrusive thoughts they really dislike. There's always a whole ton of physical compulsions going on, but we'll generally see them as necessary or really normal. Ursa, so do you have any advice about dating with OCD? I'm not sure what I'm feeling about someone. I love spending time with him, but not sure if I'm attracted, and I don't want to lead him along. Dating could be a great opportunity to cut out all sorts of compulsions we might do around feelings and other people, and excuse me, fear of hurting someone, all sorts of things like that. So there's two things I always suggest. One is to really identify some values for dating or relationships. Because if you're getting caught up in the, well, I've got to constantly be checking, if I'm having a feeling or what's going on, and setting again like some rigid rules around that, the brain's always going to judge it as wrong. If we set some values, so some valued actions, then we can say, okay, look, I know my brain, because my brain is always going to come up with a reason to end every relationship. So I know maybe my brain isn't going to be the most helpful guide here. So here's some valued actions I'm going to practice in a relationship. And this is whether we're dating or we're in a committed relationship. So one, yeah, setting that set of valued actions. And then the second one is, if you've noticed that listening to your brain around dating just creates all sorts of problems and messes up every relationship, then it can be useful to say, look, I'm not even going to get caught up in, is this the right one? I don't know if I feel right. I don't know if I'm leading them on. And even say, look, I'm not even really dating. I am being curious about exploring relationships because I know in the past my brain has always messed with them. And so right now, I'm just going to go on dates with this person. And it's not about putting any kind of other requirements on it. I am just meeting a person and I'm exploring what I want to give in this relationship. And I don't have to make a decision. I don't have to put any of this extra stuff on it. It doesn't have to be this other big thing. I'm just going on dates and meeting people. And that's it. Or if it's with one person, I'm just having good dates with this person. So what's a good date going to be? And that's it. And we can be curious and explore and learn. Luna, you said, how can I start to identify my values and beliefs separate from my family and parents? I'm feeling a lot of pressure to always please them and say yes to them, with a lot of guilt when I say no. Maybe it would split up these two things. So if we're exploring values, there's a bunch of different ways to do that. There's exercises in my book. I made a little course of even more exercises that's on the toolkit store, so just about values. You can find that if you search values toolkit store. And that's just to take us through some more exercises to consider what we care about, what we want to give our time and energy to. But even if we do that, there's still going to be then the practices around setting boundaries, actually turning those values into action. Like knowing what we care about doesn't magically stop other people from asking us to do things we don't value, or doesn't stop us from maybe having some anxiety when we say no. And so there's going to be another set of explorations or practices around setting boundaries. And that's something you can do in all sorts of areas of life, not just with family and friends. You can also recognize that we might care more about setting boundaries with family and friends because we care about them a lot. Maybe we fear them getting upset. We fear them leaving us. We fear losing that relationship. And so that's really understandable. Are there other areas in your life where you can start to practice setting boundaries and practice talking about things you care about? So one way I find useful to explore gently beginning to step into setting more boundaries is to just, with other people, practice talking about things we like. So whether it's a movie, whether it's a TV show, a book, anything you saw that day, a dog you saw on the sidewalk that you liked, an empanada place that you enjoy, just starting to practice taking up space as you. Because we're still risking that the other person, maybe they don't like the thing we like. We say, I like empanadas, and they say, I don't like empanadas. And so we don't talk to them ever again. And that's okay. We can start to step in to having those emotions that come up when we set boundaries. Ultimately, when we're setting boundaries, we're practicing being ourselves in the world. So anyway, right now, that you can start to practice being yourself and sharing about yourself is an opportunity to show the brain, hey, we can have that risk. Maybe somebody doesn't like what we like. Maybe somebody else doesn't care about the things we like. And that's okay, because I like them and I care about them. Empanadas. Ursa, you said you need to have feelings to date someone, but how can I manage that with constant checking what I'm feeling and potentially not feeling what I would feel without questioning my feelings? Ursa, maybe you shared this before I had responded. Yeah, so that that first line you put there, you can see those really rigid statements that we throw on ourselves that trip us up. Sure, yeah, feelings are part of dating someone because you're a human and so you'll have feelings, but that doesn't mean you have to have like right feelings or have to measure and check the feelings. And so also, in similar to that metaphor of the pond, if we're constantly checking our feelings, we're just like if we're constantly checking if we feel clean, we're gonna feel contaminated all the time. So it really helps to drop the compulsions because they are getting in the way of seeing maybe a feeling that's more useful for us to notice. And everybody, we'll wrap up in a bit. We'll just pop through some of the remaining questions here. Geese said, I was very intrigued by how you explained how beliefs and judgments feed into compulsions. I was just wondering for you, what work to change those unhelpful beliefs? I'm very rigid in beliefs. It's changing actions. So it really helped to recognize the beliefs follow the actions. And so if we have rigid beliefs, that's totally fine because then we still change the action, and that's so shocking for the brain because it's going, whoa, like I told you this thing was wrong and you're going to do something else, or you're not cleaning away this bad feeling and we're supposed to clean away the bad feeling. And so we change our actions and the beliefs follow. But I think there is also an element of us starting to just recognize those beliefs are wrong. It is really useful. I found it really helpful on my journey I describe it as firing my brain. I had to recognize that I'd always been doing things I thought were right and necessary. I believed I was doing useful things. But then I really had to be honest about the fact that doing the things I thought I should do did not take me to a place I liked. So if listening to my brain was not taking me anywhere I liked, then isn't it possible that that stuff in the brain is not me? Because I don't like the results of listening to it. So if we want to go to a different place and a place that we'll enjoy, it'll probably involve putting some distance between ourselves and our brains. So what's often explored in acceptance and commitment therapy as cognitive diffusion. So starting to recognize the stuff up there is not us and not stuff we need to be getting caught up in, not stuff we need to be putting in charge of our actions. So then as we change our actions, slowly the brain might catch up with us, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't, because we're going to do those actions we value anyway. Leo said, hey, your channel helps a lot. I struggle with OCD related to joy. The more joy an event will bring, the more anxiety I get because something could go wrong, ruin it, and cause trauma. Any advice? There's a couple of things here that are really useful. Yeah, so first of all, I'm glad you're finding the channel helps a lot. I find it useful to see that so many of these different, what we may see as themes or topics or whatever, we could all bring back to contamination OCD. It's the same pattern, right? I want to avoid a contamination. So like I want to avoid something going wrong because it's gonna contaminate my bucket of joy. And then we are trying to constantly avoid the contamination or clean it away. And this, to the topic on anxiety that came up earlier, anxiety and related to rumination, I think this is one of the areas where you can see how doing compulsions does create anxiety. The moment we go, this experience can't happen, we're going to get anxious because we don't control that experience, we don't control things going wrong, and so of course we're going to be anxious. We can want to have experiences, and that includes wanting to have experiences that we would have judged as contaminated in the past. And that, in many ways, is what we're exploring as we look at mental fitness. Like, we are learning to have experiences. We are building skills and capacities to have any experience. And that includes something going wrong, that includes something getting ruined, that includes really difficult things that we may label as traumatic. We're learning to have experiences. And so, yeah, Leo, what would help you to have an experience and say, look, it can get contaminated. I am going to trust myself to handle that. So what is going to help you allow yourself to have those experiences? And maybe that might also bring up, like, what are you afraid of losing if you have those experiences, and what's missing right now? That could be a useful support to explore having contaminated experiences, and seeing, even with that, joy is not, right? Joy is not some external thing, but that we can actually enjoy even having a contaminated experience. Sobek said, the question mark is, now I'm out of social media for a while and I'm enjoying real life and reading books. Not in a compulsive way. Oh, okay. But you quit social media, which makes me feel like a weirdo. Especially everyone around me is on social media, and especially family are using it in a compulsive way. And when I talk to them about it, I become the weird guy. The idea of, oh no, and then so on that, on social media, so I use social media all the time. And what I found useful, because also I had tons of compulsions online before too, what really helped me was that switch from getting to giving. So saying, look, this is a tool that I can actually use to give something and to create something. So that's the way of using it. If I'm not giving something, then I don't need to be there. And so yeah, sometimes it's still, we definitely live in a society that is becoming more and more caught up in really unhelpful compulsions, and then people going, yeah, I don't know why I'm so stressed and anxious. An example, I just had one last night. I'm getting ready for a hiking trip, so I went to the outdoor store, which is in a mall, and I was picking up some gear, which is always really fun. And I was going up the staircase. So also there were escalators, but there was a great open staircase. So I was like, I'm going up the stairs to the next level. And a person came down the stairs and they were on their phone. And I was, just walking up the stairs, and just the way the stairs were, you couldn't really see who was around the corner. And it was like a staircase that had like 2 flights to get to the next level. So I was just walking up, and this person was on their phone, and so they like turned the corner on their phone walking down the staircase and just ran right into me. And then they were like shocked and they were stressed. And it's a great example of how us being so caught up in things we may see are necessary just create these little moments of stress and anxiety. Because yeah, the person like was apologizing, and then obviously they were kind of embarrassed, and they were focused, whatever they felt they were doing on their phone, they probably also felt was important. And then they had to like switch between worlds. They were so invested in what was on their phone, then they had to pop back to this world. Then they're like, oh, this person probably thinks I'm an idiot for being on my phone walking down the staircase. But then they had to go back to whatever was on their phone. And that's really stressful. And I think people aren't recognizing just how often this switching between worlds is creating a lot of anxiety for them. And then also fueling the other anxieties, like, oh, I'm running into people think I'm ridiculous, I'm getting hit by cars, whatever. So there's that. Like, I'll often, because I don't use my phone that much, so yeah, I'll often be, I had an experience too yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I was sitting in a restaurant, and there were 2 people beside me, and they definitely seemed to be having a date, just because of the way they would talk. but they were also, you could tell, struggling with some anxiety because they would kind of talk really cheerfully and then there would be a pause and then they would both pull out their phones and then be on their phone. And then kind of, maybe because also they were just using their phone for distraction or pretending to check something. And so then eventually that would kind of get boring and then they would try to have conversation again and then go back to their phones. I felt pain sitting there. So there's that. It's okay to feel weird, or as somebody who doesn't use their phone. Because people are using them in ways that are really unhelpful and are creating a lot of stress and anxiety. But also, we can use it as a tool to create and build. So if you want to use social media, what do you want to give? Even if it's sharing with others, like sharing with family. I mean, if you're like, look, I want to, share with my family and friends about what's happening in my life. I do that. I leave some comments on their posts, and then I throw my phone out the window. And that's totally okay. Drea said, I think I do compulsive behavior when I'm escaping that moment of openness where I have an opportunity to do something new. I'm stumped though as to how to move past this. I can't see a concrete action. And so often it's turning it into very particular concrete actions. And something I did all the time was even write them out, even down to a kind of ridiculous level, like open computer, go to this website, download this, fill out this form or whatever, send email to whoever. Because if you were exploring something new, like send email to the person who runs this group. And I would write them out and then follow it like a recipe and not rely on the brain. Because if you're doing something new, the brain loves to quickly forget and be like, I don't know what to do. Let's go back and do something we've done before. Karen, thanks for being here. You said, I'm new here. Where do you recommend to start? Reading your book, maybe? Reading the book covers all sorts of great exercises that I found really helpful with recovery from mental illness and then building mental health and fitness skills and sustaining them. The book, like You Are Not a Rock or The Mind Workout, depending on where you are in the world, or it's translated into a bunch of languages, is a great place to start. And there are, lots of videos on my YouTube channel as well that are totally free. So wherever you'd like to check things out. I'll also remind everybody, there's also the Mental Fitness Discord server. We have like regular meditation sits. There's all sorts of wonderful people sharing about the skills and capacities they're building. We also now have a tofu emoji, which I think is really important. It's beautiful. One of our excellent community members and mods created the tofu emoji. And you can get an invite link to the Mental Fitness Discord server by sending me a message through my website, markfreeman.ca, or over on Instagram at Mark W. Freeman. Sobek, you said the idea that a belief follows actions is the same with depression. I thought that I had to feel good to do things, but I realized that maybe I will feel good after, but never before. Exactly. The brain, you really have to see the brain follows us. When we get into following the brain, all sorts of unfortunate things happen. So the brain, it's got to be the puppy or the little kid that you are taking care of. When you start to go wherever it wants to go, it is pretty disastrous. Aaron, he said, I have acne. I've had acne since I was 13. I'm 26 now. Anytime I obsess or worry about it, I either get acne in the spot I worry about or it worsens. If I don't think about it, no acne. What to do? I think you already see what to do. When you notice yourself thinking about it or focusing on it, why is that? What is the thing you care about there? So instead of going, I've got to approach acne like this ritual that I need to control so that it helps me get that thing I want, what if instead we look at that thing you care about and just identified some actions around caring for that thing? So if, for instance, it's social interaction. So rather than going social interaction or relationships are going to follow controlling acne, we said, look, I care about social relationships. I care about interactions with other people. What are the actions that are going to do that? And then I'm going to do those actions with whatever my skin is doing. We're often looking for those rituals to control certainty about things like relationships. But that just actually takes us away from them and creates more of the thing we're trying to control. So instead, we look at where we want to go and then we practice going there. Yeah, Gisi said, thank you. I do understand that cognitive diffusion works on these beliefs. However, it almost seems that I find myself not knowing who I then am. Like if I'm not my feelings and thoughts, what then? Yeah, great question for yourself. This is why we explore things like cognitive diffusion. This is why we understand that cognitive fusion seems so natural to everybody because as a society, we've often pushed this idea of you being very fused and wrapped up in your thoughts and feelings. And so, yeah, what if we just say, look, those are experiences. Thoughts and feelings are no different than the sound of a car driving by, a bird, seeing a tree over there. There's a really good tree right out there at the window, but I am not that tree, even though actually the image of the tree is happening only in my brain right now. So if you're not those things, yeah, what are you? Yeah, Leo, you said I have germophobia as well. Great catch. No, it's just really common. It's really common because it's not about the topic. It's about these patterns. And so if we're doing contamination patterns in one area, we're going to start doing them in all sorts of other areas. So yeah, we may be trying to clean away germs, but then we may also be trying to clean away anxiety. Same thing. And we may be trying to clean away rumination perfectly, and then also create the same kind of stressful experience as if we're trying to clean away germs. Yagoda, you said decided to go for a trip to Korea, and now I'm freaking out here in Seoul. Oh, Seoul is a beautiful place to freak out. And you saw that I'm live, so you came here. Thanks for joining us from Seoul. I really like Seoul. It's a great city. I hope you have a fantastic time exploring Seoul and taking along whatever feelings and emotions come up while you're there. Please enjoy some delicious food for me. Leo, yeah, he said, thanks for the advice. Big hugs. Oh, a hug to you. He said, there is perfectionism tied to it. Yeah. Also, I noticed that if I get family support, I beat OCDs more easily, but we can't demand support. Where do you find self-support? Yeah, I find it's about identifying what we want the support to help us do. The example I'll often give, like this comes up a lot, I'll share with people the difference between getting support around a fear of drowning and getting support to attend swimming lessons. So we look at where we want to go. So maybe we had a difficult experience swimming. Somebody threw us into a lake and we were like, I don't know how to swim. And we started to drown. And then we get rescued. We may initially think, well, I have a drowning disorder. I'm afraid of water. I don't want to go near it. I want to have support around my drowning disorder. That's okay if we want to do that. And you'd say many mental illness forums are just focused around that. Like, I don't like this thing. Support me in not liking this thing. Let's all talk about how much we dislike this thing. And then like share about disasters and try to compete with each other to see who has the worst disaster. So there's that. But we can also explore, how do I learn how to swim through these difficult experiences? And if that's our focus, then we want to look at very practically what kind of supports are going to help me build those skills. Excuse me. So it might be something like, in the swimming context, hey, I need a family member to help me get to swimming classes. And that's the kind of support I'm looking for, and that's really useful. Or I need a family member to take care of my kids while I go to swimming classes. And so yeah, where do you want to go? What is the support that'll help you go there? And then you can apply the exact same thing to the concept of self-support. So where do you want to go? What are the actions this week that you want to do for yourself that'll make that easier? So if you were the one taking yourself to swimming classes, you said, look, after swimming classes, I'm so exhausted. I can't really cook. I could cook, but I'm just like, I'm too tired. I just lie on the floor and try to feel my muscles. So you say, okay, what I'm gonna do is start to prepare food for myself so that I have food as soon as I get back from swimming. Right? Again, really practical actions that make it easier to do the things and make the changes you want to make. EL, yeah, you asked how often do you just sit and relax and enjoy doing nothing? Frequently. It's so valuable to have a practice of doing nothing and invite our brains to do nothing with us. So I'd say I approach meditation as that. Like I'll often think, I have a great meditation cushion right now where I'm staying. And so I often think about inviting the brain to sit down with me. I'll often think of my brain as what I call the metal maker monkey, which is this like monkey that just has 6 arms and always wants to make stuff. So I give the monkey a hug and have him sit down with me. So that's a useful practice. But also, borrowing this from the Plum Village tradition, Zen tradition. At Plum Village, they'll have a lazy day, and it is a day to practice doing nothing. And so we still do stuff, but it's about not chasing after this kind of super reactive, brain machine that's constantly, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to control this, you got to do this to be more productive or do this to build that. So I regularly will take a chunk of time. And so my schedule is all over the place. So it depends on what's going on. And that decides how I'll schedule this in. So sometimes it's like a Monday morning, sometimes it's a full day. At least once a month, I'll make sure I find a way to schedule in a full day where there's not a thing I have to do. So if I notice the brain going like, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, then I'm not gonna do that. I might like go to a bookstore then and find a book I've never seen before, or just go to a new place and walk around. And to really help that the brain understand, again, like it follows us rather than us just constantly reacting to everything it's throwing up. Trex, yeah, you said, is it useful to create a to-do list so you can do more of the things you want to be doing? Possibly. And then also, sometimes it'll be useful to explore doing things we value without having a list. So I'd say, yeah, it's a thing you can play around with. What I'll often do each day is identify some things I value doing that day. It won't be a totally structured schedule unless I'm super busy. And then it's just really going to help me to say, hey, you're going to do this and then do this and then that and then that. And then that can be useful. But other times I find it really helpful simply to identify what's important today. And then if I have a moment or if I notice myself doing something, I was like, oh, I don't need to do this. What's important today? Oh yeah, here's what's important today. I'm going to go do one of those things. Aaron. Aaron, I see you saying, you said something about if you do answer my question. But I wonder, does that mean I've missed your question? Did you share it as a question? I don't see. I'm scrolling up here looking for a question that you've answered. And I don't know if Aaron too, the system sometimes has a very sensitive filter. So I don't know if maybe, oh, well, no, Aaron, you had the question about acne, I assume. So then maybe, yeah, the comment you made later was after or before I had answered it. Philosoph telling people that things that are happening are karma is just engaging in the kind of magical thinking compulsions that are creating problems. So please, please do not try to convince other people to practice compulsions in the chat, because I will usher you out the exit door. Trex, yeah, he said, I understand that we shouldn't rely on feelings to track recovery, but I relapse to measure those feelings a lot after some time. What? Yeah, so it's really common. So something that I found helpful was identifying very clear actions that I'm going to measure mental fitness and recovery by instead. Because if we don't have those things that we are going to use, so actions that we actually do to measure recovery, it's so natural we just go back to like the old way of doing things and then doing a bunch of compulsions around feelings. Let's just see here. We are going to wrap up in a second, but I think we can quickly get through all of the questions. Oh, okay, Aaron. Yeah, I see. You said those messages just sent all at different times. Let's see. Where are we? Gisu um, said, thanks for the response. So, how would you start to redefine yourself and find a certain solid personality when you start diffusing from thoughts and emotions? How would you, for instance, define you? See, yeah, I wouldn't like. I'd watch out again for that like idea of a solid personality. Part of the challenge is that we're like looking for this like we're just trying to leave this rigid box that our brains create, but then we go, okay, what's my new rigid box that I'm going to stick myself in? So I would see that as the thing we're actually stepping back from. I don't have to put down, I don't have to stuff myself in this tiny little box like I'm some kind of specimen in a museum I'm going to shove on a wall and put a pin in and then, write a little commentary on. What if, rather than having to define ourselves or have some kind of rigid or solid idea of personality, we explore life. And part of exploring life is that we get to explore ourselves. So I would say, yeah, if you asked how do I define myself, I would say I enjoy giving. I enjoy giving and sharing resources around mental health. And I enjoy uh, giving support and care to myself. And I enjoy giving and sharing support and exploring our planet. Yeah, those are probably those are things I like in any particular situation, whatever context I find myself. I'm going to explore and be curious about how to do those things. But that could totally change, and how I do those things could absolutely change depending on the situation and the scenario and the context. Yeah. Is it possible to create new values that take place in the mind? Like if I value gratitude, making it a point to practice being grateful via thoughts. I look at all of our values as being about internally and externally, how are we choosing to practice our time and energy? So we can approach something in our minds with gratitude, for instance. We can approach something outside of our heads with gratitude. So I personally, I'd be more curious about that. Just how do I give time and energy in a way that aligns with my values inside and outside of my head? But my brain, if I look at it, is just a part of my body, then my brain is a part of my body that I'm going to, maybe use sometimes with particular values, but then just like how I might sit and meditate and not do anything in particular in my body in those moments other than sit. That's also something I'll explore in my mind, right? I don't have to do anything in my head in those moments, rather than I I need to do something up there. But absolutely, we can explore like how do our values translate into the way we spend time and energy in our heads. Yeah. Ali, he said, is it possible to be successful in an office job with pure OCD? Ali, you may have missed this earlier. We were talking about pure OCD. And so, right here, this would be a great example. Uh, it's very likely that if you're finding some kind of impact to your office job, that those are physical compulsions. So, it may be useful to set aside the idea of pure OCD. Because if there's some kind of thing you're not doing, or you're changing what you're doing in the office, like those are the physical compulsions. It is very useful and very doable to cut out the compulsions. So yeah, what do you want to give? What do you value doing in that career? Whatever those actions are that align with those values, you can do those with any thoughts that come up. So yeah, it's very doable, to excel in our careers, whatever those careers might be, if we want to excel in them, while having a human brain. Aaron, so you said, I have one final question. So if our worries are causing problems that are damaging our life, what are we supposed to do? So Bill, this is the same question I already responded to. What is it that you currently believe you need to control acne to get? Whatever that thing is you're trying to get, that's the thing to go and do now. So you said that acne is causing problems that are damaging your life. How? If you want to interact with other people and build relationships, that is 1000% a thing you can do right now. What are the actions of doing that? And yeah, whether it's something physical, whether it's something mental, same as the person just asking about an office career, whether we're having thoughts we judge as terrible inside our heads, or we're having something we judge on our bodies as terrible outside of our heads, we're going to bring that along with us. Because the thing that gets in the way of our lives is not that experience, but us pausing life to go and clean it away first. Those rituals to clean it away are the thing that interferes in our lives. It can help with so many of these things, even like a fear of losing identity. We have a fear of losing identity, and then so we avoid being ourselves in the world so that we can fix those fears before we go and be ourselves. We are the ones who are taking ourselves away from our lives. We are the ones handing our identities over to some random experiences that our bodies are throwing up. So our bodies do a lot of unwanted stuff. And we can take that along for the adventures. Muruga-san, yes, what do you do for a living? Uh, you're part of it right now. I create supports and tools and work with people to help them navigate recovery and make big changes in their lives. Yes, thank you for stopping by today. And Yogoda, thank you. EL as well. Thank you, everybody. We will wrap up shortly here. Harun, yes, you said the more we're thinking of the problem or OCD and trying to solve it, are we not making it worse and playing with its game? Exactly. You're just focusing on trying to clean it away more and more and more. And so, of course, the more we're trying to chase that clean feeling from the contamination, the more we create it. Louise, yeah, you said what to do with your life when you have lots of compulsions interfering with it, when you can't afford therapy. Yeah, cutting out the compulsions. It's why, one of the reasons why I create the resources I do. It is not a secret about how to cut out the compulsions. There's tons of videos here for low cost supports. There's like the courses on the toolkit store, or there's books. Uh, th- the practice of cutting out the compulsions is not a secret. Uh, when we notice there are compulsions interfering with our lives, like that is the reason I started making content, is because I thought it was weird that you couldn't just go online and have it explained how to start cutting out compulsions. And that is, yeah, that's why we do sessions like this. It's a totally doable thing. There's all sorts of research looking at, whether people do it on their own or with a therapist. Studies are kind of all over the place, and that sometimes actually people in the self-help group will do better, people in the therapy group will do better. So yeah, what we know is that it's totally doable to do on your own. So don't let "I can't access therapy right now" be a barrier to making those changes. Uh, it's totally a doable thing to cut out those compulsions. Sai said, long time no see. I stopped joining your live streams after shifting my focus from fixing to building. That's fantastic. Also, I wanted to say thank you for the book and your free contents. I'm traveling, living life now. So that's fantastic. Enjoy that. That is the way we do it. We go and we do life, and we bring along whatever the brain wants to throw up or life wants to throw up. That growing is actually how we create so much support for ourselves, that living of life rather than stopping life to focus on some brain stuff. And even Ali, you said, I think my exposures need to be passive, like living life normally and not avoiding. Yeah, I can help to see that's not passive at all. Like that is, I always say the most extreme exposure anybody can do is just go and live their life. Oh, Vishwajit, thank you so much. And thanks for being a member. Thanks for joining. Muruga-san, you said, any upcoming books from you? I am actually about to go to a book fair. That's why we're going to wrap things up, because I'm going to go to a book fair. But actually, at the book fair, we've been talking about some technology and doing things offline today. I want to make a set of cards. So a card deck, actually what I'm going to be exploring at the book fair are getting ideas around card decks. So they're popular in therapy, they can be really useful. Having something tangible as a reminder. So the idea right now is to do a card deck, either maybe one that's reminders that are useful things or useful questions, and one that's specifically mental fitness, acceptance and commitment therapy exercises. So we'll go, that might be the next thing. And we're almost to the bottom of the chat. Joba said, is mindfulness all about focusing on your breathing, enjoying the things you do, and focusing on the present and who you are? That's a lot of things. I would look, so you mentioned breath there, but breath is just one of the things you could be doing. You wouldn't necessarily have to focus on it. It could be useful to see it more simply as just awareness of the present without judging stuff. Sometimes I'll describe it as doing the thing you're doing. So even if we notice ourselves, caught up in our heads and doing some compulsions or something like that, yeah, you can be aware of that. You don't have to hate on that. That is something you're doing in the present moment. If you want to do something else in the present moment, yeah, you totally can. Saya, you said, have I tried Vipassana meditation? I have. I've done a Vipassana retreat before. And Vishwajit, you said, I wanted to start exploring just sitting meditation. Can you point to any easy resource which can get me started? Oh, sure. There's a free meditation course on the Toolkit store. It's called The Basics of Being. That is designed around learning the component skills of meditation leading up to a practice at the end of just sitting. So kind of easing people into the basics to then learn how to drop some of the extra stuff we're doing and just sit. And we can just sit. Everybody, let's wrap it up there. Brian, yeah, you had one question. This is the last question of how can I deal with a fear of sleepwalking with harm OCD? I'm terrified to sleep. Yeah, so if we're trying to control a fear, that is going to create more of the fear. So keep an eye out. This week, there's going to be a new video up on the YouTube channel on the fear, so like harm, intrusive thoughts around people we care about. And so that'll explain the process that I would go through around a fear like that, because it's useful to see it's not actually about the fear of harming others. It's going to be about the feared consequence of that. And so that video will be out this week, unless something happens. Something could happen, like a space whale could swallow the earth. So let's enjoy today and give our time and energy to the things we care about today. Thank you so much to everybody. It was amazing to see so many members here today. Thank you for being a member on the YouTube membership channel. Thank you everybody who donated. I really appreciate you all being here and being part of the community so we can explore living our lives and exercises and skills that support doing that. So thank you everybody. Enjoy giving your time and energy to the things you care about today. I'll see you soon.